Getting crypto rich, making life-changing wealth, and becoming a crypto millionaire are terms thrown around so often in YouTube and Twitter. I'm surprised most of us haven't become numb to them. However, that is what most people come to cryptocurrency for, is to create life-changing wealth. So it's only natural that people are drawn to these sorts of titles. Now, in this video, we're going to look at history repeating. We're seeing the potential for markets to have a correction, which obviously brings the best times for life-changing wealth. So before we crack into it, make sure you've liked, subscribe, bell notification icon, and also you can see more of this content pop up in your newsfeed. And Patreon has been cleaned out yesterday. You guys soaked up all of the supply. 50 are gone here. And if you're interested in checking out the altcoin portfolio that I'm putting out tomorrow, join us here, 16% off still for the annual plan. There's 50 left. So go ahead, check that out. Links are in the top of the description. Now I'm looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index. This is 130 years of history. It's pretty simple to see that you should be buying on all of the major dips. We always want to have and try tasty dips. We want to be involved in the tasty dips, not just every day that's down 2% and get involved in days that are up 5 or 10%. We want to be there for the long ride and get in on the big dips. The hardest part here is that the news and the market sentiment is the most bearish, and it can be bearish for quite a long time, just like it can be bullish for a very long time. Of course, this is the most major crash in history, with it falling almost 80% in the stock market. This is back in the 1920s and 30s. I don't think we're going to see a repeat of that at this point in time, but who am I? Just some guy on the internet, of course. But the main thing I'm looking at here is history repeating. Now, we've seen a major crash in 2020. It's no surprises to anyone else. We are now seeing COVID variants coming out to try and scare the markets again. I don't think we're going to see the same sort of thing that happened last time. Remember, the 50% levels come up a lot, and we get these good corrections to 50%, which make for excellent buying opportunities. You can see that this happened in a macro picture on the Dow Jones, and the same deal happened on the NASDAQ as well. You can see that the market loves to come back to its 50% levels and find some support before it starts to move on again. So that would be one area that we would look for in terms of creating life-changing wealth and getting in nice and early. But the hardest part is the emotion, because we always think that the market is finishing at that point. It's finally time for the market to rest and come down. So the next step I look at is the 18.6-year cycle. So this is for the macro view of the property and stock markets. And then it leads me into some ideas of where I think maybe the money is flowing in cryptocurrency as well, and to use the same sort of skills within cryptocurrency. So this is put together by Phil Anderson at Property Share Market Economics. If you're a follower of the channel, you know I've been talking about Phil for many, many years now. I hope to get him on the channel for an interview soon. We're in this period here, 2021 to 2024. So this is as the real estate cycle is pumping up. The stock market is still pumping up. We do get corrections along the way, just like we're seeing now with the Omicron variant, the new flu variant that comes out. And then that generally leads into some sort of scare for the market, because people will try to react like they did last time. Well, we've seen it happen before, therefore it should happen again the same way. It's usually not the case, because people are preparing for it. So some people, I would say some smart investors, will probably try and front run the market before it gets to that point. So I'm looking at it in terms of a shorter term time frame, a small little double top, head and shoulders pattern, and we're just using the range from the top of the head to the bottom of the shoulder here. So we've got two shoulders and the head. Then we stretch this down from the top of the shoulder, and we're getting closer to our 50% level. So if we see the stock markets come to a standpoint or a bit of a support at around our 50% level, then we will look further to see what's happening in the broader market, to see if we're getting a support area or if we get a breakdown further. Now, if we get a breakdown that goes past around that 15,000 mark, that might lead to some sort of scare in the cryptocurrency market. And of course, this will just continue to extend and lengthen the Bitcoin cycle, because overall with Bitcoin, we're still seeing an uptrend. We're still seeing a macro move to the upside, but that doesn't mean we need to move to new all-time highs this month or last month or September for $300,000 Bitcoin. So for my analysis and my planning, the macro view is still up. Stock market is up. The land cycle is still up for another few years, as we can see with our cycle chart here. We're leading into that 2025, 2026 timing for the peak. Later in 2026 is generally where we're looking for a peak in the land values. and the stock market should peak around that time as well. Now, of course, these are macro cycles, so we need to give and take a few months, maybe even a year or two either side. We'll know more as we get closer. Remember, this is still 5 years away. So the macro view for my planning is still up. Now, when I look to Bitcoin and, of course, the stock markets, if these markets start to come down on the back of some of this crazy news with Omicron variant coming out or any other sort of virus or anything that they're trying to do, the view is still up. Therefore, these times are to be buying the dip. Now, my dip buying area are on the 50% levels. That's the best times. We get a nice balanced correction. If it doesn't get that far, then we look for signals that show us that the market is bottoming and then starting to create a reversal above that 50% level. And so that's what I'm looking for here with Bitcoin. And I've been posting about this on Twitter. So if you're not following, check out the links down below, Twitter and Instagram. Use the official links. Don't get scammed out there. I know people are still getting scammed. It's been going on for years now, guys. Don't get scammed. Use the official links. I only have one. It's in the description. So on Twitter, 61,000 is my level. Why did I get 61,000? Well, you can see these highs are still lower than the previous high. And this is on a swing chart as well. So we're looking at the daily swings here. The highs are still lower. However, we're starting to get a nice move to the upside. So this is short-term focused. Now I want to see it get above 61. That's the previous swing before we got the crash down. And these were Wyckoff strategies. Now this was on a previous video as well. Check those out on the channel. Make sure you're subscribed. So 61K is the level there. So if I can get back above that, that's a nice level for some support coming in on Bitcoin. And then you probably see some strength come back to Bitcoin and start to break a little higher. In the meantime, while Bitcoin still remains above our 50% level and grinds away, up, down, sideways, whatever it may be, people are getting bored and then moving across to altcoins. So we want to get into stuff that is starting to move while Bitcoin still looks stable, but not taking the gains away from everything else. So you can see what we're doing here, going from a macro picture, flying high, and then coming down smaller and smaller and smaller to get into the smaller term timeframes. We're feeling safe, we're comfortable, we're on path towards 2026. Let's start to zoom in on the rest of the market and look to smaller moves day by day for that generation of life-changing wealth to become this crypto millionaire, because we need to be buying when the market is the most fearful, when it's bloody, when people are scared. Take ADA for an example. Put this on yesterday's video and we're looking at the market get absolutely crushed, waiting for some reversal signs. We've seen a minor bottom at this point in time. We got a low of $1.41, and finally there was some news that came out and it's just pushed the market up 11%. Now, if you zoom out, it's not that big of a deal. People are getting worked up over 11%. The downtrend is hopefully going to break, but we haven't broken any 50% levels yet. You can see what happens on these news pumps while the market is down. So another thing to pay attention to, you can see the market pumped on this little news here, hit the 50, which is now put in the 50, and fell all the way from that point. So be on red alert for these in the shorter term timeframes. There can be a lot of noise, such as the news, in this case for ADA, Sunday swap coming out on Sunday, getting launched, and that's moved the market up a little bit. So far, so good. It's had a higher close, and then you want to see the next day push higher again. So that's part of the signal to get a bullish consolidation and a bullish reversal. So we're going from a down to an up, and we want to see this market start to make some higher swing bottoms. You don't know at the time if this is going to be the low, because there was another low back in mid-November and another low back in late October and another low back in mid-September. So you get the idea. You don't know where they're going to be lows. You get a few days up, maybe you get sideways and then an up. So you need to wait for that consolidation in case the market decides to break back down again, because the news wasn't strong enough to break the cycle. And in this case, we're not sure yet. News is just news. You need to wait for the cycle to confirm and then move back in the direction that you were trading in this case, bullish. On the other hand, Matic was something that we talked about recently on the channel as well. In this video here, just 2 days ago, looking at 7 crypto coins set to pump. Matic is on that list, and it's something that I've been absolutely patient with. I got destroyed in some comments back in May when I wasn't buying this pump, but I knew that it didn't have the legs to stand on because it already pumped. And so that's why I'm being patient. So over 6 months later, now I start to see this. And the guys in Patreon saw me talking about this many times, and this is where I'm getting far more excited as we start to break the first 50, the next 50, then the highs, then a higher close on a macro time frame. So you can just see all the check boxes going off here. And so this is what I had for the guys in the group. You can see now, safe entry, 3,600, get out if it goes under 2,000. So this so far is a reasonable setup. Nothing is confirmed, but you need to get in when the blood's in the street or when people are fearful, and then you start to see those early trigger signs to get into the market. The major 50% is broken again, so that's a good sign for something like Matic. And then on the other hand, you've got something like Sol, which is still trading at higher levels, but it's just not showing that weakness. Now, it's not something that I'm calling to want to get into. I think it can still get to the $500, maybe $600 level. Again, this was something I posted back on the channel when it was at $25, looking for a 10x on Solana. So we've basically got there at this point, and I think maybe we'll get a 20x into Solana as well from those lower levels. It hasn't broken down on the macro time frame. There's still higher lows being put in, and we're starting to break up. Of course, my get outs are if we start to break down around that 180 level. That would be a sign of, or a major sign of weakness. It's not over yet until it breaks the 50%, but for now, it's looking reasonably good, especially with layer ones going off and layer twos like Matic as well. My journey to creating life-changing wealth in cryptocurrency has been a strong game of patience and conviction. Patience in the sense that I'm waiting for those really tasty opportunities to be buying those dips, and then conviction to know where my macro view is. Are we still in an uptrend or a downtrend? Do I want to be buying the major dips on the cryptos I want to hold as a longer term investment, or do I want to be buying breakouts and waiting for that opportunity for the crypto to break, such as Matic? So we could be buying these dips in July and the lows in October, but for something that I'm not as convicted in, I want to see the trend break, because we've had plenty of false starts in something like this. And during this period, we've seen things like Solana do absolutely massive gains. We've seen it do a 10x in that same period. So if I want to create the life-changing wealth, I need to understand which horses are strong at that point in time. In this case, I think Matic is now turning into one of the stronger horses. We need to get back above the all-time high, of course. But at the moment, the early signs are it could be a strong horse, especially with Ethereum also moving closer to all-time highs again. Now, ADA, as much as I hold it, as much as I wear the shirts, as much as I have a staking pool and people getting triggered over something that I'm brutally honest about, at the moment, it's still needing to prove itself. That's the only message here. It still needs to prove itself. And you don't have to be 100% right in any of the investments that you make. If you get married to something, it's generally going to work out pretty bad for you, because at the end of the day, the market doesn't care if you're married to it or not. If you fall in love with the creator and love to join his circus that goes on behind the scenes, that's up to you. But the market doesn't care. And if you want to be making the life-changing wealth, make sure you've got a plan to zoom out, understand the bigger picture, a plan to sell, practice selling as well, and learn to read a chart. Easiest things to do. Does take some time, takes some practice and some patience. For some investors that don't have the time to study, to build a plan, to know what to buy and when to sell it, something like Invictus Capital's Crypto 10 Hedged might be an option. You can see what they're holding here, and this is rebalanced on a weekly basis between cryptos and stable coins. So this is following the market with trends, and the beauty about this is you hold one crypto which has a basket of everything that you see here. One of the beauties about this fund that investors find is that it takes a lot of the time away from digging into the cryptocurrencies and just following the trends with their quant-driven algo. The other upside is that you only purchase one crypto and it does all of the work for you. So you don't have to worry about all of the trades during tax time because you're just buying and holding one crypto. That doesn't mean that you don't have to have your own plan when it comes to buying and selling and when you want to get in and out of the market, but it does take away a lot of the pressure when it comes to which cryptos to buy them, when to sell them, and then of course all of the tax reporting. So I'll leave a link to Invictus Capital in the top of the description. So if the markets begin to break down on the back of news around different flu variants coming out or collapses in different sectors around the world, the overall trend, in my opinion, and in my roadmap and my plan, is that it's still up. So I use these opportunities to be buying the major dips, not just the little few percent here and there in terms of cryptocurrency, but the major dips. And of course, I work this in with my property cycle and of course, checking out Bitcoin as well. Now I've got my levels in where I would draw the line at the market being completely over, but I don't see that happening at least for another few years into 2026. So in the meantime, I'm looking for strong horses. And as we're talking here, the market continues up on Matic BTC. And of course, the US dollar chart will be up a little more as well. And so I want to get on the back of some of these stronger horses and not stuff that is yet to be proven. Of course, within my plan, I don't need to buy the exact bottom, because I want to get on something that is strong. If I was looking to buy exact bottoms, I could be waiting in a market for many, many weeks or months before it begins to break into new uptrends, into new strong uptrends. And that's how we caught on to Solana early on, and of course CRO as well. So that's what I'm looking for when it comes to life-changing wealth, where I'm looking, how I'm finding them. If you want to know more, check out Patreon down below. 16% off for the annual, still available. There's a few more there, 50 to go. So when they're out at this point in time. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys over on Twitter, where I'm posting daily with more of the fantastic life-changing wealth alpha over there. Catch you next time. Until then, have more fun to get more done.